Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Learn with Jason. I'm just happy to have you here. What a week, and to the folks in Texas, I'm so sorry for what you're going through. I hope you're staying warm. I know that there's a very low likelihood that you're seeing this live, but if you're catching this on the repeat, my heart goes out to you. I'm real sorry. Today on the show we've got Colby Fayock. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm good. How about you?
I'm so good. I'm so happy to have you on the show. This is going to be so much fun. I have got to say, you have one of my favorite avatars that I've ever seen. My favorite photos. I'm going to put this back up for just a second because I love it so much. Look at this photo. This is so good.
It's a throwback to my modeling career.
Wait, is that an actual, like, you modeled that for a toy or something?
Yeah, so of course I wasn't actually a model, but I used to work for a company called ThinkGeek, which they shot their own product shots.
What? Oh my God. Okay.
So they would pull employees in, and that was one of the ones that I got to. So I was known for being the hugger.
Oh, that's amazing. And that, oh man. Hey, also, put it on your resume. You were in a product promotional shoot. You're a model, man. That's amazing. That's so cool.
Flashing lights,
So outside of a modeling career, can you give us a little bit more of a background on yourself?
Yeah, sure. So right now I'm a developer advocate at Applitools, which is a visual testing solution. Before that, I was a front-end engineer, and I still consider myself a front-end engineer, but now I'm actually able to spend my full time helping with educational materials and helping people with integrations with Applitools and all that good stuff.
Nice. Very cool. And so this is I think really exciting. Applitools is very cool. We're not really going to talk about Applitools today unless we end up with some extra time, but we do have a whole episode. And I am very jealous of you being able to work at Applitools because you get to work with one of my all-time favorite people, Angie Jones. Angie has been on the show. I'm going to drop a link in the chat right now if you want to see both Angie and how excellent she is, and Applitools and how excellent it is. It's easily one of the most mind-blowing episodes because of how quickly we're able to do something that I thought was going to be so hard, which is setting up visual diffings, visual regression testing for applications.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's extremely cool. So but we're not talking about that today unless we get unless we go real fast, which honestly, given this stack is a possibility. But so what are we going to talk about today?
Yeah, sure. So we're going to talk about WordPress, everybody's favorite CMS, and Next.JS, which is probably realistically everybody's favorite web framework. We'll talk about some of the challenges between the two and how we can get up and running with sourcing content from WordPress.
Nice. Yeah. And so WordPress, I think, is one of the things that I love about WordPress is that it has adapted really well. And I think this is in large part due to the strength of the community. WordPress has an amazing open source community. It's huge. It powers a huge portion of the internet. But it didn't seem to lose momentum when people started moving to this headless CMS model. And I think that that's fascinating because prior to this, it sort of felt like, back in the monolithic app days, WordPress didn't really have competition. There were other ways to build with a monolithic CMS, but they were all kind of niche. And I know that everybody who knows of their favorite monolithic CMS is screaming at their computer right now. And I know, I'm sorry, especially you, Craft CMS. I'm so sorry. But when you think about it, realistically, in terms of dominance on the internet, WordPress was the option. When we moved to headless CMSs, that was absolutely not the case. So why do you think WordPress has been able to keep its relevance despite moving to a model that it was definitely not originally built for?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting because just WordPress generally, I feel like there's so many tech big companies and they're probably still using WordPress just as WordPress kind of intended it. But it's had a REST API for a while, so it's nice that it can kind of fit into that ecosystem where you can source that data. I don't know if that was originally the intent. I never looked up the history of the REST API and the thoughts of about building that, but it'd be interesting to see like what their thought process was for building it out, and where that kind of took. But now, especially with WP GraphQL, like that makes it even more attractive because people love WP or GraphQL generally, and it makes it really nice to be able to query all your WordPress data. So I think, mixing all those layers, like it really helped keep the momentum. And just generally speaking, I still think WordPress has one of the better editor experiences. Not to, I'm not talking bad about any of the other CMS options we had. There's so many of them great ones. But I think WordPress still has a really nice and familiar editing experience for people.
Absolutely. Yeah, and WP GraphQL is maintained, created by a friend of the show, Jason Ball. He was also on, and we learned all about WP GraphQL. So if you want to see how to do what we're doing today, but with Gatsby instead of Next, we've got an episode for that. You can go check that out. So what I think is really interesting about it too is that, WordPress has this, it's been able to carve out this niche where people who don't want to learn how to build websites use WordPress, and they like WordPress. It's easy to log in and edit my content and take it live, and I never have to think about the way that the code works. And originally, I remember this being kind of painful for me because I was, I was a PHP developer, and I resisted WordPress for a long time because I didn't like the templating that it did, and all these decisions that were kind of being forced upon me, right? I wanted to do my templating a different way. And so I remember moving to these solutions that were really heavy. Like, I don't know if did you ever use Bedrock back in the day?
No, I never used Bedrock.
So Bedrock was this way of like changing WordPress into, I think, what was their goal? It was like, we want to turn WordPress into a 12-factor app. It was wild, right? It was completely wild. And it ended up being so hard that I never used it, right? Because it was like, we've got Ansible in play now, and I don't know how Ansible works. I don't remember how to use any of that stuff. So when I went to go maintain things, you couldn't use the plugin updates through the UI anymore. You had to do it through the server, and there was all these challenges. So it wasn't really practical. But then when headless WordPress came out, when it became practical, suddenly it was like, ooh, so wait, now WordPress is super appealing because I love the editing experience of WordPress, but I don't like building front ends for it. Exactly. Now I can build a front end that I like and use this editing experience that I like, and everybody's happy. Everybody wins.
Yeah, it really kind of brings the best of both worlds. And like, it's still rough a little bit around the edges. Like, I know WordPress previews, I don't know if anybody's solved that yet with the Gutenberg editor, but still the experience, the core experience you're able to bring with like having that editing, and also things like user management and like all those things that are already layered right into WordPress, it makes it nice and easy.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I see you, Chad. I see Kurt. Thank you so much for the sub. And you know what? You're fascinating. I appreciate you. I see a couple people are actively working on, let's say like Ooz's Picks is working on Next.JS project right now. I might have to integrate WordPress. So hopefully this is a very relevant episode, because I feel like at some point, if you work in web dev long enough, there is an inevitability that you are going to end up working with WordPress. There is almost no chance that you can get through your whole career and not touch WordPress at least once, right? It's something that you're going to come in contact with. And so I love this idea of showing different ways to interact with it, because the REST API is one model. WP GraphQL is a GraphQL API. That's a different model. And then you've got the monolithic model, which is the more traditional, like use WordPress as an all-in-one solution. All of them have strengths and weaknesses. I'm obviously biased because I don't particularly like writing front ends in PHP, but I think that there are significantly more strengths to this decoupled model. I think that it really gives the right amount of control to the people with the right concerns. As an editor, I want the great WordPress experience. As a developer, I don't want the WordPress experience. And that, I think, is a good separation of concerns.
I agree. And like, it also helps alleviate a lot of concerns people have with WordPress in the first place. Like, I know one of the things that people complain about are things like security, where, you have to be actively understanding what routes are available and, prone to attack, and you can kind of lock that infrastructure off from the rest of your site if you're pulling it in headless. And then things like plugin bloat, where if you're doing it at compile time, things like that, you don't really have to worry about that as much as it never hits the user with the visitor of the website with those long load times.
Yeah. That's, I mean, plugin bloat absolutely was always a nightmare. I remember I ran an agency for a long time, and we built WordPress sites because like there was no other way to get things out fast enough. But the problem that we'd have is somebody would bring us a site. They had 75 plugins installed. We didn't know which ones they were using. They didn't know which ones they were using. And so the hardest part of the project was like untangling the WordPress setup. And this headless approach is really cool because if you install a plugin, all you actually see on the dev side is the output of those plugins. And so, and the other thing that you mentioned that I think is really interesting is this idea of separating the front end from the back end. And when we talk about, I talk about the Jamstack a lot. It's something that I'm pretty convinced is like, should be the default option is try to go Jamstack first. And the reason for that is because it does give us that opportunity, right? Like, using WordPress as a headless CMS, if I'm generating a like fully compiled UI from WordPress, I can shut down my whole WordPress instance or put it inside of a VPN or like like an air gap it. You got to walk into a locked room and plug a USB into you know what I mean? Like you can make your WordPress so secure, and it doesn't matter because the front end doesn't actually talk to WordPress to operate. And that security is a big deal, especially when you get into like, if WordPress is over 30% of the internet is powered by WordPress, I think is the stat that we see. And if that's the case, the bot armies are looking for WordPress. If 1 in 3 sites they try to attack are probably running WordPress, of course they're going to get automated attacks. Of course they're going to try to exploit known security holes. And that's a big risk. And so I think that, being able to just gap it entirely where you can't get to the WordPress instance from the production URL, that's beautiful. That's great.
And like for kind of managed services, like there's a lot of managed WordPress services where you can spin up an instance and they take care of all the servers and stuff. But if somebody's loading it on like an EC2 instance or their own server, they might not be considering that if there is a security concern, they might have access to more than just your WordPress instance if they get in through an attack vector. Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is all fascinating. I want to make sure we have plenty of time to get through and build. So I'm going to switch us over to if I can find my mouse, there it is. I saw a meme. I'm just going to go off on a little tangent here. I saw a really good meme that I should just find and share because I'm realizing now that if I try to explain it, it's going to be terrible. How about this? I'm going to switch over to this view and then I'm going to find this meme so I can just show you instead of me trying to describe a meme, which I'm sure everybody would enjoy very much.
Why not both?
Here's the meme. No, look at this. Here's the meme. It's Gandalf looking to the left at monitor 1, looking to the right at monitor 2, and then he says, "Where is the cursor?" And then it switches to Jurassic Park, and it says, "Stay absolutely still. His vision is based on movement." And that was how I just felt just now. That was me. I am Gandalf.
I'm still getting used to the multi-monitor thing, so I'm definitely feeling that pain right now.
Okay, so I dropped links to these in the chat already, but this is the episode with Jason Ball on WordPress WP GraphQL. This is the episode on Applitools with Angie. These are both really good episodes. I would definitely encourage you to go check these out. They're really, really chock full of information. And if you want to learn more about WP GraphQL, Jason built it. So he is like the knowledge source for this. Speaking of knowledge sources, make sure you go and follow Colby on Twitter at Colby Fayock. That's a fun follow, lots of good information, and you get to look at this amazing avatar. I still now I'm so jealous. Now I want to go work at ThinkGeek so I get amazing photos. Keep in mind, this episode and all episodes of Learn with Jason are live captioned. It is on the homepage right now. We have Nicole with us today, and Nicole is doing live captioning. That is through White Coat Captioning. So thank you so much, Nicole, for being here today. Captioning is made possible through the generous support of our sponsors. We've got Netlify, Fauna, Auth0, and Hasura all kicking in to make this show more accessible to more people, which means a lot to me. Then, today, we're talking about a few things. We're talking about WordPress. So, here's WordPress. We've got Next.JS. So, here's Next.JS. We're going to... So, we haven't talked about this yet, but we're going to use Amazon Lightsail to set up our WordPress instance. Is that right?
Yeah. So
I'm excited about this because I have no idea how it works.
Yeah. So the cool thing about Lightsail is like it's just really easy to spin up like applications, and like WordPress is one of the ones they offer. Where I think the first month is free, but like after that, the lowest one is $350 a month, and like that's really cheap for that's I think at least competitive in terms of WordPress pricing.
I'm trying to think of
managed services.
I don't think I've seen anything lower than $5.
Yeah, it's pretty cheap. And the nice thing is, because at least the way that I've been using it is I statically compile the site. Like you're only doing it at build time. So you're really not stressing the server, requiring more resources.
Right. Yeah. And that's another thing that is, that I think is really like powerful here is that when you're doing this compiled version, you don't have to worry about like accidentally getting DDoSed by becoming popular. You know, one of the problems that you would see with WordPress is I remember something would go to the front page of Dig, or it would get mentioned by somebody prominent, and everybody would go to the website, and it would go down. And then it was a joke. It was like a great thing. Hey, we got taken down. And people who had the power to send the Dig effect, right? You got your site taken down by Dig, and it's like, hey, good problems. But it's also a bad problem, because if a bunch of people are excited to check a thing out and they can't load the website, right? So the static compiling, it removes that problem. It makes it so that you hit the front page of anything and start trending on Twitter. Everybody goes to your website and you don't even notice unless you check analytics, because this model doesn't stress the WordPress server. There is no server to get overwhelmed. It's all on CDNs. That's a pretty nice thing. Also, Chris, exactly. I see you trying to bait me into doing a photo shoot. I see it. Please do. Happening. I can't.
I mean, the Netlify swag and the Learn with Jason swag needs somebody to show off the. Needs to be.
Right, we're just gonna do this. Somebody just screenshot this right now.
That's fantastic.
That's gonna be my new profile photo. Okay, 2022 Jason calendar. No, nobody wants that. I know no one knows what Dig is anymore. Do you remember okay, am I dating myself? Like, do you remember Dig?
Oh, I absolutely remember Dig. Okay. And I remember that they tried to also like relaunch it and it didn't really go that well. I was never like a huge Dig person. I never interacted with it much, but I absolutely remember Dig.
Yeah, I remember Dig was so popular that people who worked at Dig became like internet celebrities. I remember when everybody knew who Kevin Rose was just because of Dig. And like, I know that still happens. Like everybody knows who Jack Dorsey is because of Twitter and everything. But like, it was one of my first memories of somebody being famous for building a thing on the internet. It was like Kevin Rose and like Zay Frank, I think were the, what's her name? Did the video shorts of like D&D. Oh my God, why can't I remember her name? Anyways, not relevant to what we're talking about, just me being nostalgic about people getting famous off the internet before it was commonplace.
But it was like the Reddit before Reddit, right?
Yeah, it was. It really was. Okay, so we're never going to get anything done. So in addition to Amazon Lightsail, we're going to use WP GraphQL. So WP GraphQL is here. We're going to be able to install that right through the WordPress. And then we're going to deploy the whole thing to Netlify. So that's a whole raft of resources here. With that being said, I think I'm finally ready to shut up and start coding. Are you ready to teach?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do this.
Cool. So we could either start off with the next app, or we can start off with WordPress. Either way, it doesn't really matter that order, but
let's start off with WordPress. Let's get that set up and running, because then we can. Yeah, I think that works.
Cool. So over at Lightsail, then, let's see. Are you logged in? Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, I think you want to go in and then search in the we can see if that link takes you there.
Let's find out what happens.
Either way, navigating to the Lightsail console.
Now it wants me to log in. I'm going to move over here because I don't know what's in my account, so I'm gonna just do this off screen. So nobody look. Everybody close your eyes. Chat, you're on the honor system. Everybody. Okay, so what is my Amazon? Oh, okay, AWS. Here we go. What does it want? I don't know. It's been a long time since I've logged into an AWS account, so we're gonna find out if I remember how to do this. Yes, that's the right thing. Am I logged in? Crap. How do I log in? No. Okay, everybody's gonna have to hold on for a second while I do like a forgot password on AWS. Oh no. Wait. Return to the main page and oh god, AWS, why? Why are you like this? My account.
Worst case scenario, we can always use a WordPress instance I have up, but hopefully we can.
I can't hopefully figure we can this show out. It. We might have to. Oh no. Okay, here we go. All right, I'm doing the thing. I'm logging in. I'm still logging in. I need multi-factor authentication. At least I set that up, eh? Now I got to find where that actually is, though. I think it's in my Authenticator app. This is how everybody wanted to spend their morning, right? Let's see here. AWS. I have it in my app. So we're gonna go. This is
the first step of debugging, right?
Oh my god, yeah. In order to build something on AWS, you have to remember how AWS works. Okay.
By the way, if you're using your phone, you should check out the Authy app if you haven't. It has a nice Mac app.
Ooh, nice. I've been slowly moving everything into. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm just going to show y'all this. I am on like step 5 of trying to log into my account.
Oh boy.
Okay, let me open my email now. All right, here's a sign-in attempt. I'm going to approve or deny. I'm going to approve this. Thank you. Now I'm going to refresh this page. Oh, for the love of God.
Now you're too up.
Why? Okay, so we're on the third go around here. I'm remembering now why it's been so long since I've logged into my AWS account. Okay.
Chris said it's easier to just create a new account.
It definitely might be easier to just create a new account. I think you're onto something. You've got to be okay. What's like add a phone number? I will not. You leave me alone. Okay.
We're in.
We're in. Okay. Hold on. Let me do that in my hacker voice. We're in. Okay. So now I'm ready. I'm going to find light sail. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. And
English. That's what I want. That's the one I speak.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's going to do the same thing as like create an instance. So either way.
Okay, we'll click a button, creating an instance location.
So at this point, so what it's essentially doing is it's spinning up a EC2 server, but it's going to be managed for us. We don't have to really worry or think about that. But we select the blueprint, like there's a ton available. WordPress is probably the most popular one, I would imagine. So it's at the top of the list there. So we don't really need to change anything here and we can kind of keep going through.
Okay, so I'll just click these buttons. And so this is, I don't actually know what WordPress version we're on. Is 5.6.0 the latest? Probably.
Ooh, I actually don't know that myself. So Bitnami, I'm not super familiar with Bitnami, but Bitnami, I guess, is who manages the WordPress instances. And I guess the stuff that goes behind that. But yeah, like we can see the pricing model. I think it said that it's free for the first month.
Yeah, let's check this out. So it's first month free. And then if I scale up, which like you said, we're not going to hit this very hard. So we don't need any more than this unless we were going to somehow, upload 30 gigabytes of images or something.
Exactly.
But, it looks like it scales pretty reasonably here. So by the time we get up to a pretty powerful machine, we're still at $40 a month, which like for an individual site, that is expensive, but on the scale of infrastructure pricing, that's not bad.
Right.
But this is going to be more than enough.
You would need a lot of traffic in order to hit that 40, and especially a lot of traffic if you're like server side rendering your application with that.
Absolutely. So I'm naming it, and I don't know do I need any of this?
Only if you want to. It's just Amazon, typical Amazon tags, AWS tags.
So it's
Just,
informational.
if you don't
not
use
like,
tags, then you probably don't need it. Yeah.
Okay, I don't use tags in Amazon.
Some people use it for like identifying billing and those kind of things.
The fun thing about this is I'm gonna remember in 30 years that I've been paying Amazon $3.50 a month. Okay, so
We need some kind of bot reminder for.
I know.
So that's gonna take a second to spin up the server.
Okay, so it's up. Henri says 561 is stable, so it's pretty dang close to being latest. And my guess is because it's managed, they have some kind of vetting process on, like they're running 561 through the vetting process, and then they'll upgrade for us, which is pretty slick.
Right. So it says it's running, but we can actually see if it's. So once the server is running, it might take a second for WordPress to be spun up, but we have that IP, and if it is available, we can hit that IP in the browser, and we should be able to see the WordPress instance, like your typical setup page.
Okay.
Yeah. So it might be still processing that startup part.
Yep.
Unless that is the same IP as the top of the page, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
Public IP. That's the one, right? That's where we are.
Yeah.
Not yet. Okay. So maybe while we're waiting for that to propagate, we can get the basics of our repo set up here. So
that sounds good.
How do you want me to start this?
So I'm good with create next app.
Okay, so
that way we
do
can kind of show
npx
what's from scratch.
Create next app, and then we'll call this WordPress next. I don't think I've created one of those yet.
And someone made a good point. It might not be available on HTTPS. I don't know if that's the case. That might be.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so we can definitely try that. So let me get into this, and then I'm going to initialize. Yeah, we want to be here. Good, that's what we wanted. So let me open this up so we can look at it. So this will be our WordPress site, and before we do that, let's go check here. This is potential security risk. That's fine. We knew we were going to do that. So I'm going to accept the risk and continue. And it says the service is unavailable.
Okay, so yeah, it still is trying to spin up.
Can I go?
Almost, yeah.
There we go. Okay. So
Nice.
now we're in, right? And so that's fine because we're not actually going to use this over the web. We're only going to use this as part of our build pipeline. So we like this, obviously I'm exposing this to the world, which is not great, but you know, for the standard process here, this IP address is never going to get exposed. No one really needs to know about this unless we explicitly share.
Exactly.
So then do I just get in like this?
Yeah. And then, so we need to figure out the password, which we're going to need to SSH into. They give the console inside of there. So it'll give you an option there to connect using SSH. And I need to find, they have a document that tells you the command to run, but it's basically, so inside of the instance, it'll have a stored file that tells you what the password is.
Default, choose the default key pair.
So you shouldn't have to worry about anything with key pairs.
Download my default private key from
I don't
the
think you need
account
to worry
page.
about that. So like if you scroll up a little bit, it has a little button that it'll just pop up a new window. And create a new SSH
right here.
instance.
Okay.
Yeah,
I saw this one and I just stopped reading. Okay. So here I am inside of the shell here.
Yeah, and there's going to be a file. I just need to find that file name. That you find the credentials. Do you want to do an ls in there and see if...
Oh, is it the application password here?
Yeah, so we're looking, for the default username.
Okay. I'm going to pull this off
path.
screen because I know exactly what happens if the chat sees that. So
Great point.
Okay, so the application password, then that's the one that I'm going to log into WordPress with.
Yes. Did you find that already, or
I did?
There should be a link. Okay, cool.
I think we're going to find out. I might be wrong. No. Is it admin?
No.
No. Okay, so there's another one in here called Bitnami credentials. So let me try that one.
Yeah, I bet that's.
Oh, here we go. There's a default username and password.
Yeah.
So let me copy this password. The username is user. No one would ever guess.
Extra secret.
Okay, so
Yay.
This is going to be LWJ WordPress. I'm just going to save this so that I don't lose it. WordPress next login.
So the only thing that I want to kind of mention is the one trick with spinning it up with Lightsail is we don't get any kind of like default email server attached to that. So we probably don't necessarily need it for this demo. But if you ever want to like reset your password or those kind of things, you'll have to have like either Amazon's email service, or I usually use I think it's SendGrid to connect SMTP, and it's not too hard. It's just it doesn't come by default.
I gotcha. Okay.
But as we see, like we have a default WordPress installation that it's pretty basic, but it's a good starting point for
got some posts,
pulling in some sample content.
Got some pages. We've got. I'm gonna not do Jetpack, right? Like we can probably leave. And so then we've got. Oh, this is kind of fun. We've got some defaults. So Akismet, that's like the classic anti-spam. We've got some SEO help, something for WordPress migration, AMP, boo, AWS for WordPress. What's this one?
Yeah, and I don't like, they're not activated by default. They're just kind of sitting there in case people want to use them. I don't really use. Oh yeah,
they're not activated. That's right.
Yeah, I think I usually use the Yoast SEO one. I don't have like a particular reason. That's just I know the most familiar with. But yeah, it's a couple different options if somebody wants to get started with it. So the plugin that we do want to add is currently we have access to the REST API, but we want GraphQL. So WP GraphQL, fortunately, is now in the plugin ecosystem, so we can install it right from there.
Beautiful. Because I do remember in this episode, we had to like install it manually. We had to download it and drag it into the plugins folder. Yeah. So this is really nice that that's no longer the case.
Yeah.
So that is now active, right?
Yep. And in the left-hand sidebar at the bottom, we have our GraphQL tab.
Here's our GraphQL tab.
And I didn't see that auto updates thing. That's nice.
GraphQL.
And we can even go to the GraphQL Ide, like right inside that tab on the left. And it spins up an instance of Graphql that we can, is that how you pronounce it? Graphql? That we can query our data.
Okay. So I am sending data to WP GraphQL because I'm helping. But now we have, all right, so let's do this. This, by the way, the Explorer is my favorite innovation in GraphQL in the last little while. Like, what a game changer to be able to just click things instead of having to read through the docs and figure it out. Okay, so
I am by no means a GraphQL expert, and this has helped me tremendously.
Absolutely. So we're going into pages. We've got nodes. I'm going to get, let's see. The title seems like something I want. Content seems like something I want. We can probably use the slug if we want,
so that we can create dynamic pages. Recently, I've been using the URI because the URI still contains the full path to it. So that includes any parents. That way, if you're rendering the page, you'll have that full path.
Ooh, this is nice. Yeah. You know what? I like that because then somebody could control the hierarchy through WordPress. Like if I make a page, a subpage, then my static site generator doesn't have to determine these relationships, which it would have to using Slug. Instead, it can just say, yeah, use the URI. That's
exactly.
Okay.
And
that's
it
really
requires
slick.
a bunch of queries if you do it the other way.
Yeah. That's okay. That's slick. I like that a lot. So, and really this is like what we need, right? Because we've got a date, we've got a URI. I'm going to turn Slug off because I don't even need it. Let's get less data, right? Like nothing extra sent over the wire. So title, content, and content is just HTML, which is beautiful.
Yep. So that will be the rendered HTML, and inside of React, we'll use the inner HTML. I know some people have tried to use some like the HTML parsers. I haven't dug too far into that kind of thing yet, but that's something I eventually want to do to create like rich components for some of the widgets.
Yeah. Yeah. This is, I mean, and this is slick, right? Because, and like you do have access if you want to, you can use this like format raw if you want to get what's in WordPress, at which point you could drop it into a rehype kind of process where you would parse it and you could do stuff. You could, you know, manage, like you said, you could do these kind of rich content experiences with MDX or whatever. But you don't have to. And I think that's beautiful.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
the best system is the one that's simple, right? I think, you know, I've been, the last few days I've been talking a lot about, simplicity and like making sure that things have fewer moving parts. And, you know, I've been screaming like complexity is a code smell, because like you don't have to make stuff hard. Like
I full-heartedly agree.
Yeah,
and like
right?
trying to make things clever, like
Yes.
it might be impressive, but it's not going to help people long term. Like even yourself going back to your code like months later, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, are we done?
So we have WordPress.
Did
Yay.
we do it? Like, because I mean, this honestly though, this I feel like this kind of puts us in a position where we're done, right? Because I can go to like Postman
In terms of WordPress, yeah.
yeah, and if I go to Postman, and where is it? It's going to be here.
The only thing is if we wanted to do like faker content, but that's not really that necessary. Just to,
Yeah, I mean, we've got some fake content in here,
Yeah.
so let's actually hit this this URL. So I've got a body. I'm going to send in raw body of like query, and then I'm going to send this GraphQL query. I wonder if that's going to fail on me, because it's not. Probably is, isn't it?
So I'm not totally sure.
You're going to fail because it needs to be one.
Can you use that GraphQL option, or does that not work that way?
Oh, does it work? Ooh, beautiful. It just does it for you. I didn't even know they'd added that feature. That's brilliant. So then I'm going to take this. I'm going to put this in here, and I'm going to go GraphQL. And now from a completely different app, I am getting back data. Hooray!
It's
Now,
in JSON, and we're ready to use it.
this, like the first time I saw this, my like developer security brain went, wait, how is that secured? Can you talk a little bit
In
about
terms
that?
of like people, in terms of getting people's content?
Yeah, right. So I was like, wait, how come I can just hit this endpoint?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think most of the time, like a lot of the APIs are relatively public just for reading content, right?
Yes, and that was the part that like I was like, wait a minute, don't we have security problems? And then I realized, like, you can go to the website and read this content. This is not, we're not getting privileged access, right? This is all data that we've published. It's public.
Exactly. I thought you were leading me towards something that I wasn't thinking about.
No, not at all. Sorry, I was trying not to do the thing where I like ask a question and then immediately answer it. Sorry if that felt like I was trying to corner you.
No, but there is authenticated routes though, right? So like, because you can do more complicated things. And I know like previews is a example use case. If somebody wanted to query the previews of a post, like you can still do that in like draft pages if you provide it authenticated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Martin's asking, would you still rely on the automatic WordPress classes for CSS styling? You can, like, WordPress ships don't they ship like for what's it called, Gutenberg? They ship like an NPM package that's got the styling for their blocks.
Oh, I didn't know that, but
I think,
pretty sure they all have. Don't they have classes, or they used to have classes? Maybe they don't have that anymore.
I feel they do all have classes, and I think what we ended up doing with this is I think there's like I don't remember where I did it. There was a project we did where we like actually pulled in WordPress's styling for content blocks, and it did the basics, and then we were able to extend that and kind of customize it to our theme. But yeah, when you get into any kind of secure stuff, if you want to get at like, I think if we even wanted to get the raw data, so if I add this, I think this will cause failure. I think it'll tell me that I need authorization. Yeah, it gives me a null, and then in my errors, we don't have debugging active, so it won't give us errors. But because I tried to access privilege stuff, it just says that there is none. So So it does do like access control. It's not letting anybody in the world see anything in your WordPress database. It's only public data, what they would be able to see by loading this page.
Exactly. And I don't think many people want to read your JSON file to read your blog, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So this then is, I mean, the hardest part of that was logging into Amazon. That's kind of amazing.
Right. It's lovely how easy it is to spin up a new instance.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're ready to start doing stuff, right? So we've got a stock Next site, and we're ready to rock and roll. What should I do next?
So the GraphQL client that I typically use is Apollo. Again, I'm no GraphQL expert, but it's always worked really well for me. So we can probably start off by installing Apollo or whatever your favorite is.
Can you remind me what the package name is for Apollo?
I will look it up.
Let's look it up together, because I'm going to drop this link in the chat. We're using Apollo client, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is Apollo client. And thank you, chat, for catching that brilliant pun. Next is such a good source of puns.
It truly is.
Okay, so I know I need to be here. So I'm going to npm install Apollo client. And I only need Apollo client? Maybe?
I believe so. Because once you have that installed...
Oh, I need GraphQL.
Right, yeah.
This also is something that I think is really, really cool that the GraphQL or the Apollo team has done, is they've really simplified this process, because a couple versions back, it was a lot of things you had to install to get GraphQL up and running. And so the fact that it's now, I'm installing one community package, GraphQL, and one Apollo package for the client, and we're in business, instead of like Apollo Boost and like transport layers and caching stuff and all these things that I would need to make it work. Now it's like, here, just install this and it's going to work.
That is nice, especially for someone like me who isn't, super well versed with GraphQL. It makes it really nice and easy. For
sure. So where should I actually put this? Like, so I've got it installed now. It's available to us.
So I typically create a lib folder and create a Apollo file where I can store the client. That way we can kind of cache that client and have it accessible from one place.
Okay. And to do this, is it a named import?
Yep. We're going to import the Apollo client. And so it's actually capital Apollo and then a capital C client.
Okay.
Yeah. And also, like, their documentation has importing the in-memory cache. I'm not 100% sure, like, the exactly how that works, but like I get the gist of it. But I'm not sure if it's like a required default. So I typically just start off with what they have.
I think the general gist of how the Apollo client works is that it's going to make queries and like dedupe. If we send, 3 pages, make the same query, it's going to try to deduplicate those so that we don't hammer on the API. And then in order to do that, it has to have a place to keep track of which queries are being made. So the in-memory cache helps with that. You can set the cache up to do, like, I think you can target a whole bunch of different things. Like you can do local storage, or you could do if you're interested in that, you should dig into the Apollo docs, because there's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do, but it's kind of out of scope for what we're doing today. But so this is the rest of what I need, is just this here.
Yep. And that'll create the client. I typically create like a global variable out of it. And then create a function, an exported function to access the client. That way we can kind of cache it globally within the process.
And that's it? I just point at this URI?
I think so. And then we can use the client.
That is really cool. Okay, so then when I go out here, when we actually
I'm not an expert on the Apollo front, so well, I know how to get started with the queries. I'm not.
Okay, so when we're actually going to use this, is this, are we wrapping the whole Next app with this?
Yeah, and we can do that inside of the app file, inside of the page.
Okay.
So if we go inside of our next application, it should be there already.
Got it.
So we'll want to import that provider there.
All right. So let me save. I'm just going to export. We'll just export this client. And so now in the app, we can, what's the right way to do this? We import client from lib Apollo. And then
I think we'll also,
we need to import the Apollo provider. Is that what it was called?
Yep.
Apollo client. Okay. And then we just wrap it around here, right?
Yep. And then the prop is client that we pass in client.
Excellent. And wrapped. Okay. Is that
done?
That's the thing?
That's that.
We did the thing.
So now we'll have that client accessible and ready to go throughout the entire next application.
Unbelievable. Okay. That's really nice. Is this Night Owl? It is Night Owl. Yeah, this is Night Owl. The font is operator mono. You can go to https json.af/uses to see all of that good stuff. Okay, so I have my app. If I want to get something on the screen, like not necessarily for use, but just to like kind of show that it's working, I want to start this. So I'm going to run Netlify dev.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll start our next site. And then it opened in this browser instead of the one I wanted it to over here.
So I'm curious, what does Netlify dev do with the Next.js? Does that just use does that spin it up with the Netlify Next.js package?
Well, that's a great question. I don't think it does anything like that. No, what it does is it starts the next server, but it also looks for any like serverless functions or anything that you're using, so that if you're, and it'll pull environment variables. Like if you've set up environment variables in app.netlify.com, then it'll pull those down, and it kind of makes the whole process a little bit more friendly. I just kind of like it because it's the same for every framework. I don't have to remember like, is it Gatsby start or Next dev or create React app start? It's just Netlify dev, and it works every time because we've got framework detection in there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Okay, so if I want to, let's dump some of this stuff out. So we've got the ability. Yep. I'm gonna move this. Oops, I'm gonna move this to the left.
And so in terms of querying our data, we kind of have two options. We can either, well, kind of three options really. So we can either query this data on the server. So either statically with get to static props, which is what I typically do, or we can use get server side props, and it would be a server side application. Or we can do it client side using their hook. So I'd personally recommend doing the get static props since there's nothing really dynamic about the content.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense. So on our home page, like we could, we have the ability to control here, and then we can just kind of start cleaning up all the things that we're not using. So like this is WordPress plus Next, and then whatever, we can leave the favicon, but like we're not using this footer anymore. We're not really using, I mean, that's basically it, right? Like that's our whole site. It's like, boom, right there, dead center. Here we go.
It.
Okay. So when we're using get static props, are we trying to pull like from the home page here?
So it depends on kind of where we want to put the content. Like if we want to just kind of show how it works, or if we want to show our blog posts on the homepage,
that's
or even the
home
page.
Yeah. Let's do both of those things. So let's show, to start, because we have some posts, let's create like a list of blog posts, and then we'll go create a homepage, and we'll use that instead of this hard coded stuff.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Cool. So if we're going to use get static props, we can use the, instead of using the hook, use query, which would be like if it's inside a React component, we can just query the, let me find what it looks like. So we're going to import the client and the and GraphQL, GQL from Apollo. So the client gets imported from our package, actually, instead of Apollo. And then, yeah, GQL.
From Apollo client. And then down here, I assume we're going to do like a const results. The result equals.
So it'll be client.query. And then we'll be passing an object into that. And I believe we'll probably want to await that request.
Oh, okay. So let me async this.
Yeah.
And
unless you want to use a promise. Well, I don't think you can use a promise there. I don't know.
I don't think you can do. Well, there's probably some way
you could probably
you can
return
do promises,
a promise, but
yeah. Let's not say we did. How about that?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so we've got a query here, and
yeah. So that'll be the query property. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the query property, and then that's going to be like GQL, right? And so
exactly.
Okay, so
this point we can paste in our query.
Oh, that's right. We can just go right over here. We can grab our query. I'm going to drop it right in the middle. And for the sake of, I'm going to just name these so that we know what we're doing. So we'll call this get WordPress posts. And I'm going to go back to WordPress, and I want to switch this up to be posts instead. Yeah, so let's get a list of our
the same.
Yeah, I think you are exactly right. So it'll be title, content, URI, date.
Yay.
Okay, so effectively exactly the same thing. And we can see here, this is kind of interesting. WordPress is setting our custom URLs for us. So like, if we didn't want that, and I think we won't, but let's worry about that later. I'm going to start here. I'm just going to get this bit of the query, and I'm going to swap it out in here. Okay, so we've got our posts.
Cool.
Now, is that it? Like that's
So what I like to do, I usually like to console log out the result here, because I like to show that if you open up your terminal after doing that and refresh the page, you can actually see that data inside your terminal because it's happening on Node.
Oh, this terminal.
Yeah. Well, you should.
Didn't like something.
Oh, it's probably because
we got to return a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll return a new object with the props key, and we can probably just pass an empty object.
Okay. So yeah, here we go. Now we've got data, and it's got posts, and our posts are nodes, and then the nodes is an array. Perfect. That's what we want. All happy.
So at this point, we have our array of posts, and we can now construct those into the post data that we want to pass into our page component.
So I can go result.data.posts.
Exactly.
.nodes. Yes.
Yep.
And then out here, what we'll get is posts, right? And then let's just log that. And we'll do posts and format it a bit. Ta-da!
Awesome. And we have our data.
We've got data. So then, instead of doing this, we can do like a post.map, and we'll get the post, or actually, why don't we just destructure this? We'll get the title, content, URI, and date. And then we'll loop on through that and create, let's do a list item. So we'll make an unordered list out here and wrap that. I'm going to let Prettier take care of all that for me. So then I'm going to take the key, and we'll put the URI as our key because that's going to be unique.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then we probably need like the link from.
Yeah. We need to also import that. Yeah.
I was hoping it was going to auto import it for me, but no. Only when I wanted to do cool stuff. Okay, so then I've got my link, and I'm going to do a link href equals URI.
Yeah, and we'll definitely need to come back to that, as you were kind of alluding to a little bit earlier there.
So then we'll do our title, and I'm realizing now we don't, we didn't need that anyways. And I'm not going to use the content either just yet. So we can actually simplify this now. So we're not going to use the content, and we're not going to use the date. Should I show the date? What do you think?
We could show. Well, are you going digital garden approach, or are you going the typical blog approach?
I don't know. Joel was on the show earlier this week, and he would be appalled that I'm about to put dates into something, but I'll just include it. Why not? So we'll just stick the date in here and save. And there we go. Now we've got
Yay!
a setup. Why don't my links look like links though? I don't know. But it's linking. The page doesn't exist, so we're gonna have to figure out how to set that up. But this is pretty good. And I'm already mentioning, like, I can already tell I don't like the date string, so I want to change that. In the URL. This I'm gonna leave.
Because, in the URL. Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah. So if I want to, I can just change that in GraphQL. Oh, sorry, you had a thing.
Oh yeah, no. So the interesting thing that I was finding out is between the differences between pages and posts, the URI is a little bit easier to use and reflect in the pathing for pages, because it's like pretty standard, right? It's the parent slug followed by the child slug. But with the post, you have that kind of different pattern matching where if somebody, depending on how somebody has it set in their settings, it might reflect differently for those posts. So there, since we'll probably just want to do something like /post/slug, like we can probably query for the slug and use that to reflect our URL.
I see what you're saying. That makes sense. Okay, let's do that. So I'm going to change this out for slug then. And then these will all also change to slug. And then when I save, what does that mean? There we go. Hey, look at that. So that's
okay. It comes with the slash already. Yeah.
Close, but not exactly what we want. So instead, why don't we? And I don't think it does come with the slug. I think, that's incorrect. So that's not how we want that to work. So let's.
And we probably want to prefix it too, right?
Yeah. So let's maybe put it under like posts.
Cool.
Or blog. How about blog? That's the thing that everybody knows what it is. And now when we link, it goes to /blog/hello world. But again, if we click, it doesn't actually exist yet. So how do we get those posts to actually exist?
Cool. So now we're going to create a dynamic page, or dynamic routes rather, where we can start off by creating a new directory under pages called blog, which is where all our file will live. A folder. Right? Or can you put that? I don't think you can put that entire string inside a single file. I think it does it, but yeah. And inside there, we're going to want to create the dynamic pattern matching. So yeah, the brackets with the slug.
Okay. And rubber ducked on, the reason we're changing from URI to slug is that in this particular case with blog posts, we don't want WordPress's like /2020/02/ what's the date today? The 18th. We don't want all that in the URL. So instead, we're going to set up our blog posts as like /posts or /blog/the slug. And so using the slug in the query means that we just get to do that, as opposed to having to kind of reconfigure WordPress to change the way that slugs are written for posts, and which was what I was about to go do. And Colby reminded me that we didn't have to. Why do extra work, right? Like, keep it simple. So now in here, if we export a function, and I guess at the beginning, we could just say like, hello, I am a blog.
Make sure to name your function.
Oh, that's right. Blog page. Does this just work?
I think it should, right?
No, unexpected token. Oh, I'm mixing all my stuff because I'm a doofus. All right. Now that I'm being less of a doofus, default export is not a React component. That is a lie. That is a lie. It is.
Oh, it's
default.
Default, yeah. Default.
Got a lot of opinions, internet. Okay. Okay. So cool. So here we go. We've got the blog here. We've got this page. Now, how does this homepage, does it have like a layout?
Does that just work?
It's got like a styles container and stuff. You know what? I'm not going to, should I worry about it? Chat, what do you think? Should I worry about it, or should we just ship it ugly? Okay. Yeah. Let's
Ship it ugly.
Yeah, let's ship it ugly for now. If we've got time, we'll go back and do more. But what do I get here? Like now I'm able to navigate here, right? Like I get to this homepage and I click this and we get to a blog, but this is hard coded. So how do I actually like connect that link to the content?
So what we're doing with that dynamic slug is we're telling Next.js that we want that part of the URL to be dynamic. So we're providing that first part of the path blog, and then inside that dynamic piece, and then inside of the get static paths function that we can define inside of that page, we'll have access to that value as a parameter, which we can use to create the paths that we need for the blog posts.
Okay, so we've got get static paths. This is what you just said. So we're exporting a function called that. And for that one, we're doing another GraphQL query, right?
Yes. So at this point, we're inside of, or are we? Yeah. So at this point, when we're creating the paths, we want to query for all the posts so that we can tell Next.js, these are the posts that we want to have a route for.
No, boy. Where am I? Oh, I need to go back one. Lib Apollo. All right. So now that I've got that, then I'll make this async so that we can do that query thing again. And I'm going to copy paste so that it's fast. I'm going to get this result. But instead of, did I miss a piece that I did? I missed like the end of that. Yeah. So all I actually need though is the slug now, right?
Right.
Okay. So I get my result. And then down here, when I'm returning this, and I'm going to get rid of this console log so that we don't get junk in our output. What I'm returning, this one is get static props. So we're returning something different in get static paths, which is paths as an array, right?
Exactly.
And we want that array to be each unique slug or full URL.
Yep. So we want each of the, I believe we want each of the params. So inside of the paths, there will be an object for each of the pages or posts. Sorry, and each of those objects should have the params property inside of it, where then we'll define what those params will be. So in our case, the params will have a slug param, which will reflect that the post slug.
So it's going to be like params. I'm going to do this long form. So we're going to return params slug like that.
I believe, yes. That's
okay.
Yeah.
So just to clarify what I just did, because I just did a whole lot in one line of code, we're getting the result of this query. The result has data, which is the actual, you get .data and .errors from a query. Then we go into the query itself, into posts, into nodes, and then this is an array. So we're mapping over that and getting the slug out of the middle here. And we're returning a new object for each one. So now what paths is an array of objects that look like this.
And now Next.js knows that we're going to have all those paths that have that parameter that's unique to each post. So with that, we can now create our get static props function, which is going to access those parameters.
And that's probably going to be async again. So function get static props, and then that gets, is it like this, or do I get like params?
So I think that's going to be params there, yeah.
Okay.
Because the top level is context. And this point, we want to actually query for that param. And if I'm double checking, but if I remember correctly, you can't actually query by slug. So we got to kind of do it the hard way. But let me confirm that.
Oh, wait, we can't?
So I might be wrong on that.
Where?
post by. Oh, no, okay. So there's post by a top level query post by, and we can select by slug.
Post by slug.
There we go.
And then what we want out of that, let's keep it simple, and we'll just get the title and content, I think. So we'll get the title and the content. And there we go. There's our content. So that's what we want. So I'm going to copy this over. And our query is going to be GQL. Okay, so
that's just another reminder of how nice Graphql is for setting this stuff up.
Just I'm naming these more out of trying to explain to my future self. Like, this is actually optional. We could delete it if we wanted, but it's nice to tell everybody who reads this later what's actually happening here.
Does it show like in the logs or something, like error logs?
If you
like, is it useful?
If you have your GraphQL instrumented, then the query names start to become more important. So as your sites get more complex, being able to differentiate, it can also affect caching. It can affect, there's a handful of things. So like it won't matter until it does, but it's also pretty cheap to add it. So I think it's nice to just kind of add it.
Yeah.
So I see a challenge here, which is, I don't think I'm allowed to just do this, right? Like this is not okay in GraphQL land, right?
So I think you can, but you just need to include the quotes still around it, because since you're essentially doing a template literal tag there, you can still place your variables inside of that.
So
let me double check myself.
Even if that technically works, I don't think that's not the GraphQL way, right? So
okay.
Instead, what we want to do is we want to include a variable, like a GraphQL variable, and we're going to set this as a required string, and then this client here gives us the ability to set variables, and we set it here. And so the reason for this is that GraphQL is designed to accept queries in a cacheable, dedupable sort of way. And when we supply it like this, it can do things, it can statically analyze. When we start manipulating queries in JavaScript, it gets very difficult to keep track of what's happening where. So typically speaking in GraphQL, keeping things separate like this, again, it won't matter until it does, but when it matters a lot. So, so if you can keep things separate like that, it'll make your life a little bit easier. And then now we're back in here. So we're going to send back props. Props is one of these, and well, we can do it. Yeah. So we just want post, and then that's result.data.postby, right? Is that giving us just a straight result.data.postby?
Did you see that it added the await? But I think that's because there's no await on the client query.
Oh,
that's interesting.
Silly bucket over here. Okay, so that would have worked, but why
I've never seen it written that way
like
before.
that? No, that's like my favorite form of fetch, when people wrap awaits in parentheses and it's like await, and it's like, oh, that hurts me. But this is cool. So now when we've got this, we should have a prop called post, and when we come up here, we should be able to access that. No, where am I? What am I doing? Yeah. I'm in the wrong place. Okay, so let's go back up to the actual component. There we go. That's the right place. And then here, I should be able to do like post.title, and then let's wrap this whole thing in like a div probably. And then we will also add, oh boy, save me prettier. We're also going to add a div with dangerously set inner HTML.
So dangerous.
So dangerous. Now here's the reason why this works. We are trusting our WordPress site to sanitize HTML for us. That is the only reason that we are using dangerously set inner HTML, is because we control the source of data. If we didn't, we shouldn't do this.
And I don't think WordPress will even let you, like, its interface won't let you input anything like that could manipulate it, right? Like you can't put scripts inline inside of a WordPress editor, right?
I would guess if you were motivated, you could do pretty much any terrible thing you wanted to in WordPress. What did I miss, chat? What did I screw up here? Return props post?
Is that property accessor, correct?
Props post singular. Post singular. What have I done? Are we getting anything out here? Let's look. Post is not defined. Why don't you think post is undefined? I've missed something. Get static props. Let's log this. Is that doing what we want? Paths.
Oh, we need the fallback on it, right?
Okay. So that's,
I always forget about that.
Okay, so we'll just say in this one here.
Yeah, I think that's in the get static paths, right? Yeah.
This one we're going to say fallback false. Because if we don't have a page, we're not going to try to do anything magic. We're just going to 404. So if we go to not a thing, it should 404.
I'm curious why they don't have a default for that, like as opposed to throwing an error like default to one option.
I don't know. I feel like I could make an argument in both directions, right? Because I think that having somebody explicitly choose whether they want a 404 or not is probably, it's not the worst thing in the world to ask somebody to know, but it also, like, I would expect that if I provide an array of things that it would just 404 if I didn't give that path. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe the next team will do that.
Yeah. Anyways, it works. Yay.
Hey, it works. Yeah. So this is a WordPress page. So if I go back in here and I go to my post and let's edit this, and I'm like, oh, hello, block editor. And then I update.
The interesting thing too is like the theme inside of the Gutenberg editor. Like I think they take the theme of the editor theme is the theme of the site, I believe. At least that's what it looks like. So it's kind of like a weird editing experience. But there's also like WordPress themes, like a headless WordPress theme or a minimal or something that you can.
Oh, nice.
Install.
Okay.
That way, it's just like
Yeah. But yeah, so this is pretty cool stuff, and I'm happy. All right, so then if we take this and we go back to, let's maybe add a little bit more. We'll have like a link. Did that pull in from next link? Yes. Then we'll do an href of home, and we'll say back to home. Ooh, let's use HTML entities. Left arrow.
And yeah, leap and lemur, if we create a new post, it should just work. Okay.
I don't like
do we want to try that out?
Oh yeah, if we create a new post, hell yeah, we do.
Yeah.
This button? No.
I think we actually have to go back to the WordPress editor.
Didn't we know how to do that? How do I leave?
I think you can click the logo at the top left.
Got it. Okay,
there you
cool.
go.
All right, so I'm going to add a new post. And we'll say high quality information.
Something bootful.
And I'm going to post it, and we're going to come back out here, and I'm going to refresh the page.
You might have to restart the server because the query would probably be cached, right? So wouldn't you have to redo that query?
Shouldn't be this, because when you're in dev mode, this should just fire.
They should redo it.
Did I forget something? Let's see. Something boopful is now alive. I don't know. Let's stop and restart it and see if that. Oh wait, it doesn't like something. Oh no, it's just logging. That's fine. Logging is fine. So let's stop and restart and see if maybe it did cache.
Yay!
I would have
I'm not
expected
exactly
that
sure,
to not be the case, but I mean, what do I know? I'm not a WordPress expert. So okay, so that's a thing that'll have to happen, and really in practical purposes, that's completely acceptable, right? Like that's
exactly.
what you would expect. So then I want to do. We've got 15 minutes left, and I want to get two more things done. First, I want to pull from my pages for this homepage content here, and then I want to get this thing deployed to Netlify. So let's go to pages, and I want to make this one my homepage. So my permalink is if I just make this like nothing, will it work?
I think you probably. I'm actually not too sure about that one.
What if I just make it like, acha? No, it's not going to let me do that.
Or just
but I want it to be home. Oh, you know what I think I have to do? I think I have to do like, this site is built, is built with Next and WordPress. Okay, so I'm going to update this, and then I think we have to go into the WordPress stuff, because in here, reading, the home page is a static page. Ta-da. Okay, so now I'm pretty sure if we go back to the editor here, that if I query,
so the only thing I don't know is how you query by front page. Maybe you know how.
I think what'll happen is it's going to use the slug, right? So if I go, actually, let's do page by URI / and then I'm going to get the title, and let's find out. So here's my title. All of you go away. Ta-da!
Nice.
So when we
Good
set
call.
it to the home page, it changes the URI. So that's what I was doing in the settings there.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So let's add the content, and not comments, content. Ba-ba! There we go. All right.
Yay!
So now when I go to my index here, I can check this out. This is why I love GraphQL. I can just get WordPress homepage and posts. Haha. Okay, so then I can do like title will be result.data.postby.title. And then we'll do the same thing. This is ugly, but I want to make sure we get done. We'll get the content. And then up here, I can do like posts, title, content. Thank you for the sub, Irish Beats. I appreciate it. Welcome to the Boop Crew. Make sure you abuse that emoji. Let's add a div, and then we'll dangerous. There it is. There it is. There are those boops. And we'll add some HTML, put the content in here, and I think nothing up our sleeve. It's broken. I think we need to
that query again
restart because the query, maybe the homepage gets queried specially or something. I'm a little not gonna lie, I'm a little bit confused by that, but it's probably no, it doesn't like that at all. So what am I doing wrong? I'm doing something wrong. Page by title. Oh, page by, not post by. I am very good at computers. There we go.
Yay.
There it is. There's our site. So look at that, y'all. We've been able now to build a site. And if I go in here and I edit this a little bit more, I go to my pages and I'm going to edit. Let's change this out. And we can say like, oh, dang, all of this is managed in a WordPress headless CMS. And then I can just start like cleaning up the rest of this because I don't want it anymore. Bye-bye. Bye. There we go. All right, update. And then when I refresh, it is cached, but that's okay because we know how that works. We can stop and restart. So the next thing that I can do then is I am going to let's just like make this thing work. So I've got my get init. We're built here. We've got all this stuff. I'm going to create a Netlify dot, or do I even need one? I don't, do I? It'll just work.
So the only thing I'll say is if we're deploying to Netlify, unless it does it like it just does it quote, the next on Netlify, we would need to export it statically. That's the only thing we might want to consider doing.
Yeah. So here's what I'm going to do. I have this repo. Let me GitHub repo create learn with Jason /WordPress next. Here we go. Public.
And I need to install that.
Yes. That's the
CLI.
Git CLI, the GitHub CLI. It's very, very nice. So now I have a public repo. Now I'm going to git add everything. And did we add anything I didn't mean to? That all looks good. So I'm going to git commit, and we'll say feature headless WordPress site. And then we'll git push origin main. Great. And then I'm going to set this up with Netlify. So I'm going to do a Netlify init, and it's going to create a new site, which is what I want to do. I'm going to put it into my team. We'll call this WordPress next. I bet this is taken. What?
What?
Amazing. Wow. Okay, so then I can do an npm run build, but I think this part's all going to get taken over by next on Netlify. So I'm going to, yep, that's all fine. The functions folder we're not using yet. Sure, I'll create a netlify.toml. Okay, so now I'm going to open this, and it's going to open my browser, take me to Netlify, and we're going to do a plugin. So I'm going to go to the plugins, and I'm going to search for Next. And I want Next on Netlify. So let's install that on this one. And what this is doing is it's just adding support for, like, really we don't need this. Like with what we built, we could just run Next export and it would be fine. But if we want to add things like support for the fallback true, or we want to add API routes and stuff like that, then Next on Netlify is going to make that work.
So does it even work for get server-side props?
I think so, yeah.
That's cool. Does it just
the
create,
idea
like,
is that
functions?
it changes the Next target to serverless, which means that we can support all the features, anything that's supported by serverless.
Awesome.
Which is like there are some things that won't work, and this is the one that built without. But this one I think is built with. Let's see if it's going to tell us stuff. So I don't think we have to change anything. I think if we just put Next on Netlify in here, it's just going to work.
That's
so
really
let's watch what happens. The plugin will start talking to us shortly. Let's see.
I usually try to just go static first until I need to reach for the server side stuff. I just like having a little extra bit of sanity with it.
Okay, so here comes the plugin. It's building, it's doing things, creating an optimized production build. Here we go. Compiled with warnings. Warnings are fine. I'm mostly worried here. Okay, so here's Next on Netlify. So it does all this work for us, right? It builds all the copy and all the things that we need to do. It sets up API endpoints as Netlify functions. All the things that we wanted now work, right?
That's really
so
cool.
This just works. It's very, very handy. And so then it's gonna do the function bits, deploy, and we're live. Hey, look at us go. And that is a deployed to production WordPress site running off of Next and Netlify. And when we click through, these things work. Everything does what we want. It is magical, y'all. I mean, I really like this workflow, and what I like about it is that it lets us do like so much. You know, when we're looking in here, this path of being able to say, like, I'm going to query whatever API, and the data that I get back, I can drop in as props. And here's the thing that I think is really cool. If we look at this now, let's look at what happens in the network tab when we refresh this page. So if we look around, we will not see a query to WordPress. What we will see is our homepage manifest somewhere in here. Oh, maybe it
the build
doesn't.
manifest.
Maybe it doesn't show. I think it's the next. Oh, so this one is generated as static HTML, so we don't have to load the manifest. But hello world here is set up where we get a response. This is the props, right? So these are the props that we got. So we have our title, our content, all that stuff, so that when we click through to hello world, it loads instantly, despite the fact that we didn't actually have to hit the API. So
It's beautiful.
we're sending very little content around, and this is with very little optimization or anything like that. But what a great flow! And if we want to shut down that WordPress instance, we can. In fact, I probably
super
will,
easy to
because
shut
like
down,
why would I why would I keep this live? Like, I don't need to pay $350 a month forever. But that's kind of the power of this model. When I shut down WordPress, this site will stay up. This site lives until I take it down or until I try to rebuild it if WordPress is broken. But that is extremely cool.
And one question in there was about
images. Is that what you were going to talk about?
So I was going to talk about the deploy, but we can talk about images too, because that's interesting.
Okay, so deploy. Do you want to talk about deploy? We have like 4 minutes, and I want to make sure that we've got time to like let you point to things. But
yes,
go ahead.
So with the deploy, since Netlify has the hooks, we can create. There's WordPress plugins that'll trigger a deploy hook anytime you update changes. So if you find that plugin, and I can find it later, you just hit that build hook every time the content changes, and it'll automatically kick up a Netlify build, and you have your updated site.
Yeah. Let's see. And then if you want to do images, the way that I like to do images is with this little Rehype plugin that I built that will take any HTML images and turn them into Cloudinary assets, so that you don't hammer your non-asset services for assets. It'll also optimize them, make them smaller, serve them in next-gen formats, all that good stuff. So this is the way. If you can just plug this into Next. If you want to see that in action, I think we'll use it on the Explorer site. And if we don't use it on the Explorer site, we definitely use it on like JSON.af. So there's a couple places that you can go to look. The source code for both of these sites is on GitHub. Hold on. We need to wrap up. I want to make sure we don't go over time. And Colby, I want to make sure that you get a chance to tell people, where should somebody go if they want to learn more from you or learn more about this?
Yeah, so you can go to my Twitter, and I link out to everything. I have a YouTube channel where I do weekly tutorials. I also recently put out a course on Egghead.io where you can create an e-commerce store with Next.js and Stripe checkout, which is a beautiful thing. So definitely check that out.
Yeah. So go check out Colby. It looks like this is a really great kind of central hub here. Go follow him. And then if we go to your website, we can find all of these things. Is that, so you've got the newsletter, and then it looks like we've got all sorts of good stuff here. So
yeah,
definitely
and I also
go. This is also amazing. I love that.
I'll have to send you some stickers.
Please do. And let's do another shout out to White Coat Captioning. We've had Nicole diligently transcribing all of the nonsense that I pour out of my face for 90 minutes at a time. Thank you so much for putting up with me. That is made possible through White Coat Captioning and the generous support of our sponsors. Netlify, Fauna, Auth0, Hasura. Thank y'all for kicking in, making this show more accessible. I really appreciate it. It makes a lot possible. Make sure you go and check the schedule. We've got so much fun stuff coming up. We are going to do Sentry, error tracking in serverless functions. This is going to be such a good episode if you're working on a team. It's amazing. Then we're going to bring Abhi Iyer on. We're going to do state machines and Kubernetes. State machines, I know. Kubernetes, I know literally nothing about. I've maybe used Kubernetes once or twice in my entire career. So that's going to be an adventure. It should be a lot of laughs. Abhi's going to be super frustrated with me. And then we're going to have Ben back on. We're going to do View 3, Hasura, serverless functions. That's going to be amazing. Sunil Pai is joining. We're going to talk about ES Build and tools like Vite that are built on top of ES Build. Jennifer Waddell is coming to talk about Angular and building forms. So much good stuff is coming. So please make sure that you go to the schedule page and click this Add to Google Calendar button. It will let you know when things are happening, when things are starting, and if you want, you can even set reminders. I think that's everything. Colby, any parting words?
You can go enjoy WordPress if that's your favorite thing, because now you can use it with the Jamstack.
Absolutely. Yeah, please go out and build stuff. If you build stuff, send it to us. Show us what you're building. And with that, we are out of time. So chat, thank you as always for hanging out with us today. We're going to go find somebody to raid. Colby, thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Yep,
we will see you next time.
See everybody.